The wind howled through the dense pines of Blackridge Forest like a beast unleashed, whipping Alara Voss's hair across her face as she stumbled forward. Rain lashed down in sheets, turning the narrow trail into a treacherous slurry of mud and fallen leaves. Her breath came in ragged gasps, each one a reminder of the life she was fleeing. A shattered engagement, a family that had turned their backs on her dreams, and the suffocating weight of a small-town existence that had finally broken her spirit. At 28, Alara had packed her old Jeep with what little she owned and driven north, seeking solace in the remote wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. But now, as thunder cracked overhead and lightning illuminated the twisted branches above, she wondered if solitude was just another word for suicide. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, but it did little to pierce the storm's veil. She'd been hiking for hours, trying to reach the old cabin her grandfather had left her in his will, a place she'd never visited but clung to like a lifeline. The map on her phone had died miles back, victim to the relentless downpour and spotty signal. "Come on, Alara," she muttered to herself, teeth chattering. "You've survived worse than a little rain." But the words felt hollow. The betrayal from her ex-fiancé Marcus still burned, his affair exposed in the cruel light of a family gathering, her mother's dismissive wave. "Men will be men, dear. Move on." No, she wouldn't move on. She'd run. A low growl rumbled from the underbrush, stopping her dead. Alara froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. Wolves in this part of the forest? The locals in the last town had warned her about the wild packs that roamed these woods, but she'd dismissed it as folklore, the kind of tales meant to scare tourists. Another growl, closer this time, joined by the snap of twigs under heavy paws. She swung her flashlight wildly, catching glimpses of glowing eyes, 3 pairs, no, 4, circling her in the gloom. Panic surged through her veins. She bolted, feet slipping on the slick ground, branches clawing at her jacket like skeletal fingers. The wolves were fast, their snarls echoing in pursuit. One lunged from the side, its jaws snapping inches from her leg. Alara screamed, tumbling down a steep incline, her body rolling through mud and ferns until she slammed into a fallen log. Pain exploded in her ankle, but adrenaline pushed her up. She grabbed a jagged rock, brandishing it like a weapon. "Stay back!" she yelled, voice cracking. The largest wolf emerged from the shadows, its fur a sleek midnight black, eyes burning like embers. It was massive, easily twice the size of any wolf she'd seen in documentaries, its muscles rippling under sodden pelt. But there was something off about it, intelligence in its gaze, a deliberate pause as it assessed her. The others flanked it, hackles raised, but the black wolf held them at bay with a deep, commanding rumble. Alara's mind raced. Was this how it ended? Mauled in the middle of nowhere, her body never found? No, she wouldn't go down without a fight. With a cry, she hurled the rock at the leader. It struck true, glancing off its shoulder. The wolf yelped, staggering back, and in that moment, the pack hesitated. Then, chaos erupted. A blur of motion from the tree line, a larger shadow, even darker than the night, crashed into the fray. Snarls and yelps filled the air as the newcomer tore into the attackers. Alara scrambled backward, her back against the log, watching in horrified fascination. This new wolf was enormous, its silver-streaked fur glistening in the rain, eyes a piercing gold that seemed to glow with unnatural fury. It moved with lethal precision, driving the pack back, one savage bite at a time. The black wolf, the leader, faced off against the silver one, their bodies colliding in a whirlwind of fangs and claws. Blood mixed with rain, staining the ground. Finally, with a pained whine, the black wolf retreated, its pack slinking into the shadows after it. The victor stood panting, its flanks heaving, before turning those golden eyes on Alara. She held her breath, expecting the end. But the wolf didn't advance. Instead, it limped closer, a deep gash visible on its side, blood matting its fur. Up close, it was beautiful in a terrifying way, majestic, almost regal. Then, to her astonishment, it collapsed at her feet, whimpering softly. Alara's hands trembled as she reached out instinctively. "You're hurt," she whispered, as if the animal could understand. The wolf's eyes met hers, and for a split second she swore she saw something human in them. Pain, gratitude, maybe even recognition. Against all reason, She tore a strip from her scarf and pressed it to the wound. The wolf didn't snap or pull away. It just watched her, its breathing steadying under her touch. The storm began to ebb, the rain softening to a drizzle. Alara sat there, soaked and shivering, her hand on the wolf's warm fur. "What are you?" she murmured. The animal nuzzled her palm gently, a gesture so tender it sent a shiver down her spine unrelated to the cold. She didn't know why, but in that moment, a strange calm washed over her. As if this creature, this wild thing, was meant to find her. Dawn broke through the canopy in weak shafts of light, painting the forest in muted grays. Alara had dozed fitfully against the log, the wolf's body heat keeping hypothermia at bay. When she stirred, the animal was gone, vanished without a trace, save for the bloodied scarf on the ground. She blinked, disoriented. Had it been real? The ache in her ankle said yes, as did the distant howls echoing through the trees. Gathering her strength, she limped onward, following what she hoped was the trail to the cabin. Hours later, as the sun climbed higher, she spotted it, a weathered log structure nestled in a clearing, smoke curling lazily from the chimney. Smoke? Someone was there. Cautiously she approached, knocking on the door with a tentative fist. It creaked open, revealing a tall man with broad shoulders and tousled dark hair streaked with silver at the temples. His eyes, golden, piercing, locked onto hers, and Alara felt a jolt, like electricity arcing between them. He was ruggedly handsome, with a jaw shadowed by stubble and a fresh bandage peeking from under his flannel shirt. "Can I help you?" His voice was deep, gravelly, carrying a hint of wariness. I'm Alara Voss. This is my grandfather's cabin." "Who are you?" He hesitated, then stepped aside. "Name's Thorn Blackwood. I maintain these woods. Storm last night was brutal. Figured I'd check on the place." His gaze flicked to her mud-caked clothes, lingering on her ankle. "You look like you've been through hell." "You have no idea," she said, hobbling inside. The cabin was cozy, warmed by a crackling fire. Thorn guided her to a chair, his touch firm yet gentle as he helped her sit. "Let me look at that ankle." He knelt, his hands warm on her skin as he examined it. Alara winced, but not just from pain. His proximity stirred something unfamiliar, a pull she couldn't explain. As he wrapped it with practiced ease, their eyes met again. "You shouldn't be out there alone," he said softly. "The forest, it's not safe for someone like you. Someone like me?" She arched a brow, defiance masking her unease. "What's that supposed to mean?" Thorn's expression darkened, a shadow crossing his features. "Just wolves, packs that roam these parts, vicious ones." Alara's pulse quickened. "I saw them last night. One saved me, a big silver wolf. It was hurt, but it fought them off." His hands stilled, and for a moment, tension crackled in the air. "A silver wolf, you say?" His voice was too casual, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of something deeper. Recognition? Fear? Yeah, it was almost like it knew me. She laughed nervously. "Sounds crazy, right?" Thorn stood abruptly, turning to stoke the fire. "Not as crazy as you think." He paused, his back to her. "Rest here. I'll make some tea. You can stay as long as you need." As he moved about the kitchen, Alara watched him, curiosity warring with suspicion. There was something about Thorn, his strength, his quiet intensity, that reminded her of the wolf. But that was impossible, wasn't it? Little did she know, the man before her harbored secrets older than the forest itself, and their meeting was no accident. Fate had woven their paths together, and the full moon was only days away. Chapter 2. Shadows of the past Alara sank into the worn armchair by the fire, the warmth seeping into her chilled bones like a reluctant embrace. The cabin's interior was a time capsule, faded photographs on the mantel, a quilt draped over the couch that smelled faintly of pine and dust, and shelves lined with books on folklore and wilderness survival. Her grandfather, Elias Voss, had been a recluse, or so the family stories went. He'd vanished into these woods decades ago, leaving behind whispers of madness and myths. Now, as she sipped the herbal tea Thorn had pressed into her hands, Alara wondered if those whispers held more truth than she'd ever imagined. Thorn moved about the small kitchen with quiet efficiency, his broad frame filling the space without overwhelming it. He was older than her by perhaps a decade, his face etched with lines that spoke of hard living rather than age. Crow's feet at the corners of his eyes, a faint scar tracing his jawline. Those golden eyes, though, they unnerved her. They seemed to see too much, piercing through the facade she'd built over years of heartbreak. "You said you maintain these woods," Alara ventured, breaking the silence. Her voice was steadier now, the tea's warmth bolstering her courage. "What does that mean exactly? Game warden? Ranger?" He glanced over his shoulder, a pot of stew bubbling on the stove. The aroma of venison and herbs filled the air, making her stomach rumble despite the lingering adrenaline. "Something like that. I keep an eye on things. Poachers, lost hikers, the balance of the forest." He paused, stirring the pot with a wooden spoon. "Your grandfather and we had an understanding. He let me use the cabin when needed." Alara's brow furrowed. "An understanding? He never mentioned you in his letters." Not that there had been many. Elias had been sparse with words. His missives filled more with sketches of wolves and cryptic warnings about the call of the wild than personal details. Thorne set a bowl in front of her, steam rising in lazy curls. Elias was a private man, liked his secrets. He sat across from her at the scarred oak table, his own bowl untouched. "What brings you here, Alara? This isn't exactly a vacation spot." She hesitated, spoon midway to her mouth. The stew was rich, savory, grounding her in the moment. "Escape, I guess. My life back home, it fell apart." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. Marcus's betrayal, the way he'd laughed it off as if her heart was just collateral damage. Her family's cold indifference, prioritizing appearances over her pain. "I needed somewhere to start over. Somewhere no one knows me." Thorne's expression softened, a flicker of empathy in those mesmerizing eyes. "I know about starting over. The forest has a way of stripping you bare, forcing you to face what's inside." He rolled up his sleeve absent-mindedly, revealing more of the bandage on his arm. Fresh blood seeped through the gauze, and Alara's gaze locked on it. "That looks recent," she said, nodding toward the wound. "What happened?" He tugged the sleeve down quickly, but not before she caught the jagged edges of what looked like claw marks. "Just a scrape from checking traps. Nothing serious." His tone was dismissive, but his body language screamed otherwise, shoulders tensing, eyes darting to the window where the forest loomed like a living entity. Alara set her spoon down, the clink echoing in the quiet. "Last night, that silver wolf, it had a gash just like that, on its side." She watched him closely, searching for a reaction. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Thorne's laugh was low, almost a growl. "Wolves heal fast out here. Nature's way." He met her stare unflinching. "You think I'm connected to it somehow? That's quite the imagination." "Maybe." She leaned forward, the firelight dancing across her face. "Or maybe there's more to this place than meets the eye. My grandfather's journals. He left some here, didn't he? Talked about legends, shifters, full moons, ancient bloodlines binding humans to beasts." A muscle in Thorne's jaw ticked. "Legends are just stories to scare kids. Elias was fond of them, but they don't hold water in the real world." Yet his voice lacked conviction, and he stood abruptly, clearing the bowls with more force than necessary. "You should rest. That ankle needs time." Alara didn't press, sensing the wall he'd thrown up. Instead, she hobbled to the bedroom, the floorboards creaking underfoot. The room was sparse, a double bed with a faded comforter, a nightstand holding a leather-bound journal. Her grandfather's. She flipped it open, the pages yellowed and filled with elegant script. "The pull is undeniable," one entry read. "The moon calls and the wolf answers. But what of the ones in between? The hybrids, cursed by fate to straddle two worlds." Sketches accompanied the words. Wolves with human eyes, symbols of intertwined moons and claws. A chill ran down her spine. Hybrids? It sounded like delirium, but after last night, doubt crept in. As evening fell, the storm's remnants gave way to a crisp twilight. Alara emerged to find Thorne outside, chopping wood with rhythmic precision. His shirt clung to his sweat-dampened skin, muscles flexing with each swing of the axe. She watched from the porch, a strange heat blooming in her chest, Not just attraction, but something deeper, like recognition. As if her soul knew his, even if her mind rebelled. He sensed her presence, pausing mid-swing. Feeling better? A bit. She limped closer, the cool air nipping at her cheeks. Thank you, Thorn. For everything. I don't know what I would have done without the wolf, she almost said, but the words hung unspoken. He set the axe down, wiping his brow. You would have managed. You're stronger than you think. His gaze lingered, intense and searching. But the forest tests us all. Reveals truths we'd rather keep buried. What truths? She whispered, stepping nearer. The space between them crackled with unspoken tension. His scent, earth and pine and something wild, enveloping her. Thorn reached out, his fingers brushing her arm, sending sparks along her skin. One's about who we really are, where we belong. For a moment, vulnerability flashed in his eyes, a crack in his guarded facade. Then he pulled back, clearing his throat. Night's falling. Best get inside. The wolves, they hunt after dark. Alara nodded, but as she turned, a distant howl pierced the air, mournful, calling. She shivered, glancing back at Thorn. His head was tilted, as if listening to a language only he understood. Suspicion coiled in her gut. Who was this man really? And why did being near him feel like coming home? That night, sleep eluded her. Dreams fragmented into visions of golden eyes and shifting shadows. Of a wolf's howl morphing into a man's voice calling her name. She woke before dawn, heart pounding, to find the journal open on her chest. To a page she'd swear she hadn't turned. The mate bond defies logic. It draws the lost to the pack, human or not. But beware the rivals. They will tear it asunder. Outside, fresh paw prints circled the cabin, larger than any natural wolf's. And in the distance, a black shape watched from the tree line. The leader from the attack, its eyes gleaming with malice. Thorn was already up, brewing coffee. His bandage changed, but the wound still angry and red. Bad dreams? He asked, handing her a mug. Something like that. She accepted it, their fingers touching briefly, igniting that inexplicable pull. Thorn, tell me the truth. What's going on here? He sighed, leaning against the counter. Some truths are dangerous, Alara. They change everything. His voice was soft, laced with regret. But if you stay, you might find out more than you bargained for. As the sun rose, casting long shadows through the windows, Alara felt the weight of his words. The forest whispered secrets, and Thorn held the key. But unlocking them might unravel her world, or bind her to his forever. Chapter 3. Whispers in the woods. Alara stared into the steaming mug of coffee, the dark liquid swirling like the thoughts in her mind. The morning light filtered through the cabin's curtains, casting a golden hue over the room, but it did little to dispel the unease that had settled over her like a fog. Thorn's words from earlier echoed, "Some truths are dangerous." What did he mean? And why did his presence feel both comforting and unnerving, like standing on the edge of a cliff with the wind at her back? She glanced up as he entered from outside, a bundle of firewood in his arms. His flannel shirt was rolled to his elbows, revealing toned forearms marked with faint scars. Old ones, silvery against his tanned skin. He stacked the logs by the hearth with deliberate movements, his back to her. But she could sense his awareness of her gaze. It was as if an invisible thread connected them, tightening with every shared silence. "You sleep okay?" he asked, straightening up and brushing sawdust from his hands. His voice was casual, but those golden eyes held a guarded depth, scanning her face for clues. Off and on. Alara set the mug down, deciding to probe gently. "Those paw prints outside? They're huge. Not like any wolf tracks I've seen in books. You think it's the same pack from the other night?" Thorn paused, his expression unreadable as he poured himself a cup. "Could be. The forest has its share of anomalies." He leaned against the counter, sipping slowly. "Your grandfather used to track them. Said they were guardians of sorts. Or curses, depending on the moon phase." She arched an eyebrow, leaning forward. "Curses? That sounds like more than just stories." Elias wrote about hybrids. Beings caught between man and beast. You knew him well enough to use his cabin. Did he ever share those tales with you? A shadow crossed Thorn's face, fleeting but unmistakable. He set his mug down with a soft thud. Elias was a mentor to me. Taught me about the land, the rhythms of nature, but his mind wandered in his later years. Isolation does that. He moved closer, pulling out a chair and sitting across from her. The table between them felt like a barrier, yet his proximity sent a warmth spreading through her veins. Why the interest? Planning to stay and play detective? Alara met his gaze, unflinching. Maybe I am. This place, it's pulling at me, like there's something I'm supposed to find. She hesitated, then added softly, or someone. The air thickened, charged with unspoken words. Thorn's hand twitched on the table, as if he wanted to reach for hers but thought better of it. Be careful what you dig up, Alara. Some roots run deep, tangled with pain. His voice dropped, laced with a vulnerability that surprised her. I've lost people to this forest's secrets. Friends, family. It's why I stay out here, alone. Her heart ached at the raw edge in his tone. Without thinking, she covered his hand with hers. His skin was warm, calloused from years of hard work, and a spark jumped between them. Electric, undeniable. You're not alone now, she whispered. Tell me about them. Your losses. Thorn's eyes darkened, but he didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers curled slightly around hers, a tentative hold. My parents died young. Hunting accident, they said. But it was more than that. Rivalries in these woods. Old grudges between groups. He swallowed, his thumb tracing a slow circle on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. Then my sister. She got caught in the crossfire of something she didn't understand. I've been guarding this place ever since, trying to keep the balance. Alara's breath caught. The touch was intimate, stirring emotions she'd buried after Marcus's betrayal. Trust, desire, a longing for connection. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've lost too. Not like that, but my family turned their backs when I needed them most. Marcus, he cheated, and they acted like it was my fault for not holding on tighter. Thorn's grip tightened, protective. That's not on you. Some people are wolves in sheep's clothing. He smirked faintly, but his eyes held a storm. You deserve better. Someone who sees your strength. Their eyes locked, the moment stretching into something profound. Alara felt drawn to him, like a moth to flame, her suspicions warring with this budding trust. He was hiding something. She could feel it in the way his pulse raced under her fingers, in the unnatural heat radiating from him. But the pain in his voice was real, mirroring her own wounds. Reluctantly, she pulled back, breaking the contact. Let's get some air. My ankle's better, maybe a short walk. Thorn nodded, though reluctance flickered in his expression. All right, but stay close. The woods are restless today. They stepped outside, the crisp autumn air carrying the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. The forest was alive with sounds, birds chirping, wind rustling through branches, but an undercurrent of tension hummed beneath it all. Thorn led the way along a narrow path, his strides measured to match her limp. As they walked, he pointed out landmarks, an ancient oak with carvings that looked like runes, a stream where Elias had fished, wild berries safe to eat. You're good at this, Alara said, plucking a berry and popping it into her mouth. The tart sweetness burst on her tongue. Like you were born here. In a way, I was. Thorn's smile was wry. Grew up on the fringes, learned to listen to the land. He stopped suddenly, head cocked, as a rustle sounded from the bushes. Alara froze. What is it? Nothing. Deer, probably. But his body tensed, muscles coiling like a predator's. She noticed then how fluidly he moved, silent despite his size, almost inhumanly graceful. They reached a clearing, a meadow dotted with wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Thorn sat on a fallen log, gesturing for her to join him. This was Elias's favorite spot. Said it cleared the mind. Alara settled beside him, their shoulders brushing. The contact sent another jolt through her. He wrote about a call, something that draws people here. Do you feel it? Thorn turned to her, his face inches away. Every day. His voice was husky, eyes intense. It's like a bond, unbreakable. Fate, maybe. He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. The touch was tender, igniting a fire in her core. Ilara's heart raced. Thorn. She leaned in, drawn by that magnetic pull, their lips nearly meeting. A sharp growl shattered the moment. From the tree line, eyes gleamed, the black wolf, flanked by two others. They advanced slowly, hackles raised, focused on Thorn. "Get behind me," he commanded, standing in a blur of motion. His stance was feral, a low rumble emanating from his chest. Not human, but animal. Ilara's blood ran cold. "Thorn, what's happening?" "Stay back!" He positioned himself between her and the wolves, his body vibrating with restrained power. The black wolf lunged, and Thorn met it head-on, shoving it back with unnatural strength. The animal yelped, retreating, but not before slashing at his arm, fresh blood welling up. The pack vanished into the shadows, leaving silence in their wake. Thorn turned to her, breathing heavily, his eyes flashing with that golden glow. The wound on his arm knit before her eyes, healing at an impossible rate. Ilara stumbled back, horror and realization dawning. "What are you?" Thorn's face crumpled, regret etching his features. "Ilara, I can explain." But she was already backing away, heart pounding. The journal's words screamed in her mind. Hybrids, curses, the call. Was he one of them? And if so, what did that mean for her? As they hurried back to the cabin, the distance between them grew. Not physically, but emotionally. Yet even in her fear, the bond tugged at her, whispering that running wasn't an option. The secrets were unraveling, and the full moon loomed closer, promising revelations that could either save them or destroy everything. Chapter 4. Fractured trust Ilara's back hit the cabin door with a thud, her eyes wide as she stared at Thorn. The forest's whispers faded into the background, replaced by the pounding of her heart. His arm, where the black wolf had slashed him moments ago, was already scabbing over, the skin knitting together in a way that defied biology. Blood stained his sleeve, but the wound beneath was shallow now, almost healed. "Explain," she demanded, her voice trembling not just from fear, but from the betrayal twisting in her gut. What the hell was that? Thorn stood frozen in the clearing, his chest heaving, those golden eyes dimming to a more human amber. He raised his hand slowly, palms out, like approaching a skittish animal. "Ilara, please, let's get inside. It's not safe out here." "Not safe?" She laughed bitterly, the sound sharp in the quiet. "From them or from you?" But even as the words left her lips, a part of her rebelled. The pull between them, the inexplicable warmth that had bloomed during their walk, the almost kiss, didn't vanish. It lingered, confusing her anger with something softer, more dangerous. He stepped forward and she didn't retreat. "Inside," he repeated, gentler this time. "I'll tell you what I can." Reluctantly, she turned the knob, stumbling into the cabin's warmth. The fire had died to embers, casting flickering shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. Thorn followed, closing the door with a soft click that felt final. He moved to the hearth, adding logs with mechanical precision, avoiding her gaze. Ilara sank into the armchair, her ankle throbbing anew from the haste. "Start talking. The wolf that saved me, the silver one. That was you, wasn't it? And that healing? No human does that." Thorn knelt by the fire, poking at it until flames roared back to life. His shoulders slumped, the weight of secrets pressing down. "Yes," he admitted finally, his voice rough. "The wolf was me. I'm not like others. Not fully human." The confession hung in the air, heavy as the storm clouds that had brought her here. Ilara's mind reeled, piecing together the fragments. The journal's ramblings about hybrids, the unnatural grace in his movements, the howls that seemed to call to him. "A werewolf?" she whispered, the word tasting absurd on her tongue. Yet it fit, like a key turning in a long locked door. He nodded, still facing the fire. "Shifter. Born with it, from an old bloodline. The moon influences us, but it's more than legends say. It's a curse and a gift, strength, senses, longevity, but it comes with rules, instincts that override reason." He turned then, his eyes meeting hers, pleading. "I didn't choose this, Ilara, and I never meant to drag you into it." She wrapped her arms around herself, warding off the chill that wasn't from the room. Why me? Why save me that night? Thorn rose, crossing to sit on the ottoman before her, close enough that she could feel his heat. Because when I saw you, scared but fighting, I felt it. The bond. Shifters have mates, fated ones. It's rare, cosmic. Pulls us together like gravity. His hand hovered near hers, hesitant. Your grandfather knew. He was like me, Alara. Part of the pack once, before he left to protect his human family. The revelation hit like a punch. Elias a shifter? The sketches, the warnings, it all clicked. He never told us. Why? To keep you safe. Rival packs, like the one led by that black wolf, his name's Draven. They hunt for territory, for power. Elias hid you from that world. Thorn's voice cracked. But fate has a way of circling back. Alara's head spun. Part of her wanted to bolt, to drive away and never look back. But another part, the wounded, lonely core, yearned for this connection. Thorn's presence soothed her frayed edges, like balm on a burn. And us, this bond? Is it real or just some magical force? He took her hand then, his touch sending that familiar spark racing through her. It's both. But what I feel, it's not just instinct. You're strong, kind, even after what life's thrown at you. I see your pain, Ilara, the betrayal, the isolation. I know it because I've lived it. Tears pricked her eyes, unbidden. Tell me, she urged, squeezing his hand. Your story. All of it. Thorn exhaled, leaning back but not releasing her. My pack was small, hidden in these woods. Draven's group, they're outcasts, aggressive expansionists. Years ago, they attacked us for control of the territory. My parents fought, but they didn't make it. My sister, Lila, she was young, caught in the shift. Draven killed her to send a message. His voice broke, eyes glistening. I survived barely. Elias found me, nursed me back, taught me to control the beast, to live alone rather than risk more loss. Alara's heart ached for him, mirroring her own grief. That's why you stay here. Guarding but isolated. He nodded. Until you. The bond ignited when I scented you in the storm. Human, but with a trace of shifter blood, diluted through Elias. It's why Draven's pack targeted you. They sense the potential, want to eliminate any threat to their claim. A shiver ran through her. Potential. I'm human, Thorn. Fully. Maybe not. He cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. The bloodline can awaken, especially under stress or connection. His gaze intensified, drawing her in. But I won't let them hurt you. I'd die first. The promise hung between them, raw and real. Alara leaned into his touch, the barriers crumbling. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Not as the broken woman fleeing a failed life, but as someone worthy of protection, of love. Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling in the firelight. Don't, she murmured. Don't die. I need time, but I feel it too. This pull. Thorn's lips brushed her temple, a feather-light kiss that ignited embers in her soul. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. They sat like that as dusk fell, sharing stories in hushed tones. Her childhood dreams crushed by family expectations, his lonely nights under the moon. Laughter mingled with tears, forging a bridge over their traumas. Thorn showed her a hidden scar on his chest, from the attack that took his family, and she traced it gently, her fingers lingering. But suspense simmered beneath the intimacy. As night deepened, a howl echoed outside. Draven's call, closer now. Thorn tensed, his eyes flashing gold briefly. He's testing boundaries. The full moon's in 3 days. Things will intensify. Alara pulled back, resolve hardening. Then teach me. About the lore, the rules. If I'm part of this, I won't be helpless. He smiled faintly, pride in his gaze. Tomorrow. For now, rest. She nodded, but sleep was fitful, dreams weaving between wolf howls and Thorn's touch. In the morning, she woke to find him gone, a note on the table. Gathering supplies. Stay inside. Venturing to the window, she spotted fresh tracks, wolf prints circling closer. And in the journal, a new page caught her eye, one she'd missed. The mate awakens the dormant blood, but rivals will challenge the claim. Prepare for the right. Her blood ran cold. What right? And why did Thorn avoid mentioning it? When he returned, arms laden with herbs and a carved amulet. His expression was guarded. "For protection," he said, handing her the necklace. But his eyes held unspoken fears, deepening the mystery. As they prepared a meal together, hands brushing in the kitchen, the bond strengthened, yet the secrets loomed, threatening to shatter the fragile trust they'd built. The forest watched, waiting for the moon to reveal all. Chapter 5. Echoes of the moon Alara fingered the amulet Thorn had given her, the carved stone warm against her palm as if it pulsed with its own heartbeat. It was a rough-hewn wolf's head, etched with symbols that matched those in her grandfather's journal. Swirling lines representing the moon's phases, intertwined with claw marks. "Protection," he'd said, slipping it over her head with hands that lingered a second too long on her shoulders. Now, as they sat at the kitchen table sharing a simple lunch of bread and cheese, the weight of it grounded her amid the whirlwind of revelations. Thorn watched her across the table, his golden eyes softened by the afternoon light streaming through the window. "It belonged to Elias," he explained, breaking a piece of bread. "He carved it himself, infused with old pack rituals, wards off lesser threats, buys time against the stronger ones." She nodded, though questions burned on her tongue. The journal's mention of a rite nagged at her, a ceremony to awaken dormant blood, perhaps. Thorn had skirted the topic last night, changing the subject to lighter tales of forest lore. But the bond between them hummed stronger now, a living current that made her hyper-aware of his every movement. The way his fingers flexed around his mug, the subtle shift in his posture when a distant bird call sounded. "Thank you," Alara said softly, meeting his gaze. "For trusting me with this, with everything." Her voice wavered, emotions swelling. Yesterday's confession had cracked open doors she'd long kept shut, allowing vulnerability to seep in. Sharing her past with him, Marcus's cruelty, her family's dismissal, had felt like shedding dead weight. Thorn reached across, his hand covering hers, thumb stroking the back in slow, soothing circles. "You've given me more than you know. For years I've been a ghost in these woods. Then you show up, fierce as any shifter, and suddenly, life's not so empty." His words were quiet, laced with a depth that made her chest tighten. She turned her hand palm up, intertwining their fingers. The contact sent warmth spiraling through her, chasing away the lingering chill of fear. "Tell me more about the bond. How does it feel for you?" He hesitated, then leaned in, his breath mingling with hers. "Like fire in my veins. A pull that started the moment I caught your scent in the storm. Human, but with echoes of the wild. It's instinct, yes, but deeper. Protective. Possessive, even." A faint blush colored his cheeks, rare vulnerability from the guarded alpha. "And terrifying. I've lost so much. The thought of losing you." Alara's heart ached at the pain in his voice. She stood rounding the table to stand before him. He looked up, eyes searching hers, and she cupped his face, feeling the stubble rough under her palms. "You won't, I'm here, Thorn." Scared, confused, but here. He pulled her onto his lap, arms encircling her waist in a hold that was both gentle and unyielding. She nestled against his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his heart. Faster than a human's, she realized now. His scent enveloped her. Pine, earth, and that wild musk that stirred something primal within. They sat like that, silence wrapping around them like a blanket, the bond weaving tighter with each shared breath. After a while, Thorn spoke, his voice rumbling against her ear. "Let me show you more. The forest, it's part of me. Understanding it might help you understand this world." Alara nodded, curiosity overriding caution. "Okay, but no more secrets, Thorn. If there's more to this rite..." His arms tightened briefly. "Soon, when you're ready." The evasion stung, but his touch softened it, promising patience. They ventured out as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the trees in hues of amber and gold. Thorn led her deeper into the woods, along paths invisible to untrained eyes. He pointed out hidden signs, claw marks on bark denoting territory, herbs with healing properties for shifter wounds, a sacred grove where ancient packs had gathered under full moons. "You're a natural," he said, as she identified a cluster of wolfsbane. Poisonous to humans, but a suppressant for shifts. Elias's blood runs strong in you. She glanced at him sidelong. Strong enough to change? The question hung heavy, laced with unspoken fears. What if she was more than human? The idea thrilled and terrified her. Thorn stopped, turning to face her. Possibly, the dormant gene awakens in some, triggered by trauma, the moon, or a mate's bond. His eyes darkened. But it's not easy. Painful even, and once it starts, there's no going back. Elara swallowed, the amulet suddenly heavy. Is that what the rite is? A way to force it? He looked away, jaw clenching. It's a claiming ceremony. Binds mates, awakens potential. But Draven, he'd twist it, force a bond to control the territory through you. Regret flashed in his gaze. I should have told you sooner. Anger flared, but it was tempered by the hurt in his eyes. Why didn't you? Fear of scaring you off. Of this. He gestured between them. It's real for me, Elara, not just fate. She stepped closer, pressing her hand to his chest. It's real for me too. Rising on tiptoes, she brushed her lips against his. A tentative kiss, soft and exploratory. Thorn froze for a heartbeat, then responded, his mouth claiming hers with restrained hunger. The world tilted, the bond igniting like wildfire, heat pooling in her core. When they parted, breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. You undo me, he murmured. A rustle in the underbrush shattered the moment. Thorn whirled, shoving her behind him. From the shadows emerged a lone wolf, not Draven's black form, but a sleek gray one, eyes intelligent and wary. It approached slowly, head low in submission. Luca, Thorn growled, recognition dawning. What are you doing here? The wolf shifted in a blur of fur and light, bones cracking, form elongating into a young man with tousled brown hair and sharp features. Elara gasped, clutching Thorn's arm. Another shifter. Alpha, Luca said, voice deferential but urgent. He nodded to Elara. The pack's remnants. They've heard of her arrival. Draven's spreading lies, saying she's a threat to the old ways. He's calling for a hunt before the moon peaks. Thorn's body went rigid. How many follow him? Too many. But some remember Elias's line. They want to protect her. Luca's gaze flicked to Elara. If the right happens, it could unite us, or start a war. Alara's pulse thundered. The right, it's imminent. Luca glanced at Thorn, hesitant. With the bond forming, yes. The moon forces it. Thorn shot him a warning look. Enough. Return to the others. Tell them to hold the line. Luca shifted back and vanished into the trees. Silence descended, thick with tension. Elara rounded on Thorn. You knew it was coming so soon? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I suspected. The pull strengthens as the moon waxes. I wanted to prepare you gently. Prepare me? Hurt laced her words. Or decide for me. No. He grasped her shoulders, eyes fierce. I'd never force it. But Draven won't wait. We need to decide, perform the rite ourselves, or run. The choice loomed, heavy as the gathering dusk. As they returned to the cabin, hand in hand, the bond deepened amid the uncertainty. That night, they lay together on the couch, not crossing lines but sharing warmth, whispers of dreams and fears forging unbreakable ties. Yet outside, eyes watched, Draven's pack closing in. And within Elara, a strange itch stirred, like claws beneath her skin, hinting at secrets yet to unfold. The full moon approached, promising transformation, or tragedy. Elara stirred against Thorn's chest, the first rays of dawn filtering through the cabin's curtains like hesitant fingers. His arm was draped over her waist, heavy and reassuring, his steady breathing a lullaby against the chaos of the night before. The couch had become their sanctuary, bodies entwined in innocent closeness, no further than kisses stolen in the firelight, but enough to make her crave more. The bond thrummed between them, a living pulse that synced their heartbeats, turning every touch into a conversation without words. She shifted slightly, and a sharp twinge raced up her spine, like fingernails scraping from within. The itch from the grove had returned, intensified overnight, spreading to her fingertips. Elara bit back a gasp, not wanting to wake him. Was this the awakening Luca mentioned? Her grandfather's blood stirring, clawing its way to the surface? Thorn's eyes fluttered open, golden and alert. "Alara, what's wrong?" She forced a smile, sitting up and rubbing her arms. "Just stiff from the couch. Last night, it was good. Real." He propped himself on an elbow, concern etching his features. His hair was tousled, silver streaks catching the light, making him look both vulnerable and fiercely protective. "It was, but you look pale. The bond, it's accelerating things." She nodded, unable to hide the tremor in her hands. "The itch. It's worse, like something's trying to break free." Panic edged her voice, but his presence anchored her. She reached for his hand, lacing their fingers. "Thorn, I need to know everything about the rite. No more holding back." He sat up fully, pulling her close until she was cradled against him. His warmth seeped into her, easing the itch momentarily. "All right. The rite is ancient, a soul bond under the full moon. It seals mates, amplifies strengths, and for someone like you, with dormant shifter blood, it could trigger the first shift." His voice was steady, but regret shadowed his eyes. "It's euphoric for true shifters, but for hybrids, it's agony. The body fights the change, like tearing yourself apart to rebuild." Alara's breath hitched. "And if I don't do it?" "Draven could force a corrupted version, bind you to him, twist your bloodline for his pack's gain." He cupped her face, thumb tracing her jaw. "But that's not the worst secret." He paused, vulnerability cracking his resolve. "The rite demands sacrifice. Part of the Alpha's essence, my control. If it overwhelms you, it could consume me too. I've seen it happen. That's why I've avoided claiming anyone since Lila." The confession hit like a storm, deepening the chasm of trust between them. Alara searched his gaze, seeing the fear he hid behind his strength. The lone wolf guarding his heart from another loss. "You'd risk that for me, after everything you've lost?" Thorn's forehead pressed to hers, breath ragged. "For you, yes. The bond isn't just fate. It's chosen. You've healed parts of me I thought broken. Your fire, your kindness. I can't lose that." His lips found hers, the kiss deepening from tender to urgent, hands roaming her back with restrained passion. She melted into it, the itch fading under the heat of his touch, replaced by a blooming certainty. This was home, wild and uncertain as it was. They broke apart, foreheads still touching, breaths mingling. "I choose this," she whispered. "Us. But I need to feel it first. Train me. Show me what it means to be like you." Pride flickered in his eyes. "Then we'll start today. The forest will teach you." After a hurried breakfast, they stepped into the crisp morning air, the woods alive with the rustle of leaves and distant bird calls. Thorn led her to a secluded glade ringed by towering pines, the ground soft with moss. "Breathe with the land," he instructed, standing behind her, hands on her shoulders. "Shifters draw power from nature, earth, moon, pack. Feel it here." He pressed his palm to her chest, over her heart. Alara closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. The air tasted of pine and earth, and for a moment, the world sharpened. Colors brighter, sounds layered, the trickle of a stream, the heartbeat of small creatures in the underbrush. The itch returned, but this time as a hum, vibrating through her veins. "I feel connected." "Good." Thorn's voice was a low rumble in her ear. "Now channel it. Let the bond guide you." He stepped back, shedding his shirt in one fluid motion. His torso was a map of scars, testaments to battles fought, and she traced one with her gaze, heat rising in her cheeks. He shifted partially then, not fully to wolf but to a hybrid form, muscles rippling, claws extending, eyes glowing. It was mesmerizing, beautiful in its ferocity. "Touch the change," he said, voice gravelly. "Feel the strength." Tentatively, Alara approached, her hand hovering over his arm. Where fur sprouted in patches, it was soft, warm. As her fingers made contact, a surge jolted through her, like lightning bridging their souls. Her nails lengthened slightly, sharpening to points, and a growl escaped her throat, unbidden but exhilarating. Thorn's eyes widened. "It's starting." He reverted to human form, pulling her into an embrace. "You're incredible." They spent hours there, practicing. Thorn demonstrating controlled shifts, Alara pushing her limits until sweat beaded her skin and the itch became a controlled burn. Laughter bubbled up between them, lightening the intensity. Her clumsy attempt at a partial claw extension drawing his teasing grin, his stories of youthful mishaps as a pup evoking her giggles. Each moment wove them closer, the bond a silken thread binding wounds into strength. As midday waned, Thorn's expression sobered. "You're progressing fast, but Draven's scouts are near. I can smell them, musk and malice on the wind." Alara tensed, scanning the tree line. "What do we do?" "Prepare. The right can't wait for the full moon's peak if they're this bold." He clasped her hands. "Tonight, under the waxing light, it will be partial, safer, but enough to mark you as mine." Her heart swelled with a mix of fear and resolve. Yes, they returned to the cabin, the air thick with anticipation. Inside, Thorn prepared a simple ritual circle with herbs and the amulet, chanting low words in an ancient tongue that vibrated through her bones. As they stood within, hands joined, the bond flared, visions flashing, shared runs through moonlit woods, a life intertwined. But as the sun set, a savage howl rent the air, closer than before. Thorn's head snapped up, eyes flashing. "They're here." "Draven's forcing the issue." Alara's claws emerged instinctively, the change surging. Outside, shadows moved, multiple wolves circling the cabin, eyes gleaming with hunger. The threat was no longer distant. It was at their door. In that moment, as Thorn positioned himself between her and the window, Alara felt the full weight of their bond. It wasn't just love. It was survival. But would it be enough to withstand the storm bearing down? Chapter 7. Siege of Shadows. The cabin trembled under the onslaught of howls, the night air thick with the primal chorus of Draven's pack. Alara stood frozen in the ritual circle, the herb's pungent scent cloying in her nostrils, her claws, still nascent, sharp-tipped extensions of her nails, digging into her palms. Thorn's form was a bulwark before her, his shoulders squared, every muscle coiled for battle. The amulet at her throat glowed faintly, a ward against the encroaching darkness, but it did little to quell the fear gnawing at her insides. "Stay in the circle," Thorn commanded, his voice a low growl that reverberated through her bones. His eyes gleamed with that otherworldly gold, the shift hovering at the edges of his control. "It'll protect you while I hold them off." Alara's heart hammered, the bond between them stretching taut like a lifeline. "No, we're in this together." She stepped forward, ignoring the protest in his gaze. The itch beneath her skin had evolved into a fire, urging her toward action. Hours of training in the glade had awakened something fierce within her. Not fully shifter, but no longer merely human. She flexed her fingers, feeling the power surge, tentative but real. Thorn turned, grasping her arms. "Alara, the rite isn't complete. If they breach, Draven will target you, claim you as his to spite me." His touch was electric, grounding her amid the chaos. In his eyes she saw not just the alpha, but the man, scarred, loving, terrified of loss. It deepened the ache in her chest, this shared vulnerability forging their connection into something unbreakable. Before she could respond, a crash echoed from the door, wood splintering as a wolf rammed against it. Thorn shoved her back gently, then shifted in a fluid ripple of muscle and fur. One moment, he was the rugged man she'd kissed under the pines. The next, the massive silver wolf, fangs bared, a snarl ripping from his throat. He positioned himself at the threshold, a guardian of flesh and fury. The door buckled inward and chaos erupted. 3 wolves burst through, snarling masses of black and gray fur, eyes burning with feral hunger. Draven wasn't among them, but his influence was palpable in their coordinated attack. Thorn met the first head-on, jaws clamping down in a whirlwind of snaps and yelps. Blood sprayed, the metallic tang filling the air. Alara's instincts kicked in. She grabbed a poker from the hearth, its iron tip glowing from the embers. "Get back!" she shouted, swinging it at a gray wolf that lunged toward her. The beast dodged, but not before she grazed its flank, eliciting a pained whine. Adrenaline surged. mingling with the bond's energy. Thorn's strength echoing in her veins, bolstering her swings. Another wolf circled, aiming for Thorn's blind side. Alara hurled a chair, the wood shattering against its hide. "Thorn, behind you!" Her voice cut through the din, and he whirled, tackling the assailant. They rolled in a tangle of limbs and teeth, the cabin shaking with their fury. In the melee, Alara felt the change push harder, her vision sharpening, sense amplifying, Thorn's wild musk, the intruder's aggression, her own fear sweat. A claw mark raked her arm, shallow but burning, and she cried out. Thorn's head snapped up, his golden eyes locking on hers across the fray. In that instant, the bond flared, emotions flooding between them. His rage at her pain, her determination to fight beside him. It was intimate, raw, deepening their tie beyond words. With a savage roar, Thorn dispatched the second wolf, sending it fleeing through the shattered door. The third hesitated, then bolted after, tails tucked. Silence descended, broken only by their ragged breaths. Thorn shifted back, naked and bloodied, rushing to her side. "Alara," he knelt, examining the gash on her arm. His hands trembled, uncharacteristic for the stoic alpha, as he tore a strip from his discarded shirt to bind it. "I should have sent you away. This is my war." "No." She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Blood smeared his cheek, but beneath the ferocity, she saw the man who'd shared his losses, his dreams. "It's ours. That bond, you feel it too. We're stronger together." Her voice softened, the adrenaline ebbing into tenderness. "I won't run from this. From you." He pulled her into his arms, holding her fiercely against his chest. The contact was electric, skin to skin where his shift had left him bare. But it transcended physicality, a merging of souls. "You've no idea what you mean to me," he murmured into her hair. "In all my years, no one's fought for me like this. You're awakening more than your bloodline. You're awakening me." Tears stung her eyes as she clung to him, the bond pulsing with shared warmth. In this moment of reprieve, their connection deepened. Whispers of futures glimpsed in the rite's incomplete magic. Runs under the moon, a pack rebuilt, love unchained from secrets. She pressed a kiss to his shoulder, tasting salt and blood, a vow unspoken. But suspense lingered, thick as the shadows outside. Thorn tensed suddenly, head tilting. They're regrouping. Draven's holding back, testing us. He stood, helping her up, his nudity forgotten in the urgency. "We need to finish the rite. Now, before he strikes again." Alara nodded, resolve stealing her. The circle's herbs still smoldered, the amulet humming against her skin. Thorn redrew the symbols hastily, his chants resuming in that ancient tongue. As he spoke, the air thickened, magic coiling around them like mist. "Join me," he urged, taking her hands. "Repeat the words." "Let the bond guide," she echoed him, her voice gaining strength. The itch exploded into ecstasy and agony, bones aching, senses overwhelming. Visions assaulted her. Elias as a young shifter, Thorn's sister laughing in a sunlit meadow, Draven's betrayal that shattered the old pack. Secrets unveiled in flashes, Thorn's hidden doubt about his alpha worthiness, the rite's risk of madness if the bond faltered. A howl pierced the night, Draven's commanding and close. The cabin walls groaned as more wolves hammered against them. Thorn's eyes met hers, fierce with love. "Hold on. We're almost there." The magic crested, Alara's claws fully extending, fur prickling along her arms. But doubt crept in. Was she ready? What if her human side rejected it, dooming them both? As the door splintered anew, Draven's black form silhouetted in the breach. The rite hung in balance. The bond strained, pulling them toward unity or rupture. The night held its breath, secrets teetering on revelation, their fate sealed in the coming clash. Chapter 8. Bonds forged in blood Draven's black form loomed in the shattered doorway. His eyes, crimson-tinged slits, fixed on Alara with predatory intent. The air crackled with tension, the incomplete rite's magic swirling like a vortex around the cabin's interior. Thorn's grip on her hands tightened, his chants faltering only for a split second as the alpha rival stepped forward, shifting midway into a hulking hybrid. Furred torso, elongated snout, claws glinting like obsidian daggers. You dare perform the rite without pack sanction? Draven's voice was a guttural snarl, distorted by his partial transformation. Behind him, more shadows stirred, his loyalists, eyes glowing in the dim light, ready to pounce. The girl carries Elias's blood. She belongs to the victor, not a lone wolf playing house. Alara's breath caught, the magic surging through her veins like liquid fire. Her claws dug into Thorn's palms, drawing blood that mingled with theirs in the circle, an unintended catalyst. Visions intensified, flashes of Draven's past betrayal, how he'd orchestrated the attack on Thorn's family for power, his secret ambition to corrupt the bloodlines and rule unchallenged. But amid the revelations, a deeper suspense brewed. Alara's own identity teetered, her human facade cracking under the rite's pressure. Was she truly dormant, or something more ancient? A key to secrets Elias had buried. Thorn broke the chant, shoving Alara behind him as he fully shifted back to human, his nudity a stark vulnerability in the face of threat. "She's mine by bond, Draven. Leave or this ends tonight." Draven laughed, a chilling bark. "The bond, pathetic. I've waited years to claim what's owed. Elias promised me territory. His lineage seals it." He lunged, claws aimed at Thorn's throat. The clash was brutal, bodies colliding in a frenzy of strength and speed. Thorn dodged, countering with a swipe that raked Draven's side, but the rival was relentless, his packmates joining the fray. One, a wiry brown wolf, leapt at Alara, jaws snapping. She swung the poker again, fueled by the rite's energy, her strike true and empowered. The wolf yelped, retreating, but not before its teeth grazed her leg, igniting fresh pain. "Alara!" Thorn's roar cut through the din, his eyes meeting hers amid the chaos. In that glance, the bond deepened, an emotional torrent of love, fear, and unyielding protectiveness. He fought like a demon possessed, but Draven's numbers overwhelmed. A claw slashing Thorn's chest, reopening old scars. Seeing him bleed, something snapped within Alara. The itch exploded into transformation, partial, agonizing. Fur sprouted along her arms, her senses exploding. Draven's scent of rot and ambition, thorns of pine and devotion. She charged, claws extended, tackling a wolf off Thorn's back. The act was instinctive, raw, binding her to this world irrevocably. Thorn glanced back, awe and love flashing in his eyes. "Together," he gasped, their movements syncing as if choreographed by fate. They fought back to back, the bond a conduit for shared strength, her agility complementing his power. Draven faltered, surprised by her emergence, but pressed on. His strikes aimed to separate them. In a momentary lull, Thorn pulled her close, bloodied hand cupping her cheek. "I love you," he whispered, the words a vow amid the storm. No matter what secrets the moon reveals. Ilara's heart swelled, tears mixing with sweat. "I love you too." The confession was cathartic, deepening their emotional tether. In his touch, she felt his hidden fears, doubts about his worthiness as alpha, the secret guilt over surviving when his family didn't. It humanized him further, making their bond not just mystical, but profoundly real. But Draven exploited the vulnerability, slamming into Thorn and pinning him against the wall. "Yield the girl, or die like your sister." The taunt ignited Thorn's rage. He threw Draven off, shifting to full wolf in midair, tackling him to the ground. Fangs and claws blurred in savage combat, the cabin's floor slick with blood. Alara fended off the remaining packmates, her partial shift granting bursts of speed. But fatigue crept in, the rite's drain, the wounds accumulating. As Thorn and Draven rolled, locked in a deadly embrace, a new vision assaulted Alara. Elias confronting Draven years ago, revealing a pact broken. But deeper, a secret about her own blood. Elias hadn't just been a shifter. He'd bound an ancient curse to his line, one that could either empower or destroy. Was that why Draven hunted her? Suspense coiled tighter. Her identity wasn't just hybrid, it was pivotal, a linchpin in the pack's fate. With a final desperate surge, Thorn pinned Draven, jaws at his throat. "Surrender," he growled, voice echoing human words through the beast. Draven's eyes narrowed, but his pack, battered and whining, backed away. "This isn't over," he snarled, shifting to wolf and retreating into the night, his followers slinking after. The cabin fell silent, save for heavy breathing. Thorn shifted back, collapsing to his knees, wounds knitting slowly under the right's lingering magic. Alara rushed to him, dropping beside him in the circle. "You're hurt." He pulled her into his arms, ignoring the pain. "We did it. Your shift. It's beginning." His voice was thick with emotion, pride mingling with worry. They held each other, bodies trembling, the bond pulsing with shared triumph and tenderness. In the quiet they kissed, deep, healing, a fusion of souls that mended emotional fractures. But as they broke apart, Alara's hand brushed a hidden scar on his back, triggering another flash. Thorn's secret pact with Elias to protect her from afar, watching her life unfold without intervening until fate forced his hand. Why hide that? Suspense lingered. What else did he know about her origins? "We need to complete the rite," Thorn said, helping her stand. "Before Draven regroups, the moon's power peaks soon." Alara nodded, resolve firm, but questions burned. As they redrew the circle, chanting in unison, the magic rebuilt, stronger, infused with their blood and love. Yet outside, howls echoed anew, Draven's call rallying stragglers. The bond deepened, but so did the shadows of untold secrets, drawing them toward a climax where identities would shatter or solidify forever. Chapter 9. Moonlit Vows. The rite's magic hung heavy in the air, a shimmering veil that pulsed with the rhythm of their hearts. Alara and Thorn stood entwined in the remnants of the circle, herbs scattered like fallen stars across the bloodied floor. Draven's retreat had bought them a fragile peace, but the howls fading into the distance promised his return. Thorn's chest heaved, his wounds closing under the ethereal glow. But his eyes, those piercing golden orbs, held a storm of emotions: relief, fear, and an unyielding love that mirrored her own. "Alara," he breathed, his voice hoarse from battle and incantations. He drew her closer, his hands framing her face as if she were a precious artifact he feared might shatter. The partial shift lingered in her, fur receding, claws retracting, but the power hummed beneath her skin, a newfound vitality that made her feel alive, reborn. She leaned into him, her fingers tracing the fresh scars on his chest, each one a testament to his sacrifices. "We made it," she whispered, tears tracing salty paths down her cheeks. The bond surged between them, a torrent of shared sensations. His pain, echoing in her limbs, her resolve bolstering his strength. It was more than magic. It was intimacy forged in fire, deepening with every heartbeat. Thorn kissed her forehead, then her lips, soft at first, then with a hunger tempered by tenderness. "Not without you. Your fight. It saved us." His words carried the weight of unspoken gratitude, revealing layers of his guarded heart. In the visions from the rite, she'd glimpsed his isolation, the years of self-imposed exile after losing his family. Now, in this moment, he let her in further, vulnerability cracking his alpha facade. They sank to the floor together, backs against the wall, her head on his shoulder. The cabin's chaos surrounded them, splintered wood, overturned furniture. But in their cocoon, it faded. "Tell me," Alara urged softly, her hand over his heart. "What else did Elias hide?" "The visions. They showed a curse in our bloodline. Something ancient." Thorn tensed, his arm tightening around her. Suspense coiled in the silence, the secret he'd guarded like a wound. "Elias bound it to protect us. A curse from the first shifters, tied to the moon, amplifying power but risking madness if unbalanced." He hesitated, his breath warm against her hair. "Your blood. It's the key. Pure enough to break it or unleash it. Draven knows. That's why he hunts you. Not just for territory, but to corrupt it. Make his pack invincible." Alara's pulse quickened, the revelation stirring unease. Was that the itch's true source? Not just awakening, but a dormant curse waiting to erupt? She pulled back slightly, searching his eyes. "And you? What part do you play?" He averted his gaze, a shadow crossing his features. "I'm the guardian Elias chose. Watched over you from afar as he asked. But the bond, It complicated things. I wasn't supposed to fall this deep. Regret laced his tone, deepening the emotional chasm they bridged. Yet in confessing, he drew her closer, the honesty a balm to her doubts. Her heart ached for him, the lone sentinel, burdened by duty. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. She kissed him again, pouring her emotions into the touch, trust, desire, a fierce protectiveness mirroring his. The bond responded, weaving tighter, emotions flowing freely, his love a warm tide washing over her fears. As the night deepened, they tended each other's wounds by the flickering fire Thorn rekindled. His hands were gentle on her gashes, applying salves from forest herbs, his touch lingering with unspoken promises. You've changed me, he murmured, bandaging her leg. Made me believe in more than survival. Alara smiled through the pain, her fingers combing his hair. And you've given me purpose. Back home I was lost, here, with you, I feel found. Their conversation flowed like a river, sharing fragments of souls. Her dreams of a life unbound by betrayal, his visions of a pack rebuilt in harmony. Laughter mingled with solemnity, Thorn's rare chuckle at her mimicry of Draven's snarl, her soft gasp at his tales of moonlit hunts. The intimacy built slowly, a slow burn that ignited sparks without consuming. They lay together on the rug, bodies aligned, his warmth seeping into her. No further than embraces and kisses, but each contact deepened the bond, emotions layering like sediment into rock, unbreakable. Yet suspense simmered beneath the surface. As Thorn dozed fitfully, Alara slipped from his arms, drawn to the journal amid the debris. Moonlight spilled through the broken window, illuminating a page she'd overlooked. The curse awakens the true alpha in the line. But beware the hybrid's secret, blood of both worlds, power to unite or divide. Her fingers trembled. Was she the true alpha? And what hybrid secret did it mean? Thorn stirred, murmuring her name, but she closed the book, unresolved questions gnawing. Dawn crept in, casting long shadows. Thorn woke, pulling her back into his hold. The right's magic lingers. We need to seal it fully under the moon tonight. His voice held urgency, eyes scanning the horizon where Draven's threat loomed. Alara nodded, but doubt flickered. What if the curse changes me, makes me something I'm not? He cupped her chin, gaze intense. It won't, because you're already everything. We'll face it together. His promise sealed with a kiss, but as they prepared, gathering wards, reinforcing the cabin, the howls returned closer, more insistent. A scout wolf appeared at the tree line, not attacking but watching, its eyes intelligent, perhaps Luca or a spy. Thorn growled low, shifting partially. They're probing. Draven's planning something bigger. Alara's claws itched to emerge, the power coiling. As they stood side by side, the bond thrummed with unity. Yet the secrets, her potential as the key, Thorn's full role, hung like storm clouds. The full moon's rise would bring climax, but would it reveal salvation or shatter their world? Chapter 10. Shattered Illusions. The full moon crested the treetops, its silver light spilling into the cabin like molten mercury, illuminating the scars of battle and the fragile hope in Thorn's eyes. Alara stood with him in the reformed circle, the air humming with residual magic from their chants. The curse's weight pressed on her, a spectral presence stirring doubts about her identity. Was she merely Elias's granddaughter, or the harbinger of an ancient power that could redefine the packs? Thorn's revelations had peeled back layers, but suspense clung like mist. What if her awakening unleashed something neither could control? Thorn's hands trembled slightly as he clasped hers, his calloused palms grounding her amid the swirl. This is it, he murmured, his voice a velvet rumble that sent shivers down her spine. Blood from their wounds had sealed the rite's earlier phase, but now, under the moon's zenith, the final binding awaited. His golden eyes held hers, brimming with a depth that transcended words. Love, yes, but laced with the fear of a man who'd lost everything once. Alara squeezed back, her heart aching with the bond's intensity. The partial shifts had left her changed, heightened senses picking up the subtle shift in his scent, a mix of pine and raw emotion. "I'm ready," she whispered, though uncertainty gnawed. The journal's words echoed, the true alpha in the line. What if that was her? And Thorn, his role as guardian hinted at more, a secret pact that might bind him in ways he hadn't confessed. They resumed the chant, voices intertwining in the ancient tongue. Magic coiled around them, warm and insistent, drawing out the curse's threads. Visions flickered. Elias forging the binding spell to contain a primordial shifter spirit, one that granted dominion but demanded balance. Alara gasped as pain lanced through her, bones shifting, reforming. Fur rippled across her skin, then receded, the change teasing full emergence. Thorn pulled her closer, mid-chant, his body heat a anchor. "Feel me," he urged, breaking rhythm briefly. "Let the bond steady you." His forehead pressed to hers, breath sinking. In that intimacy, emotions flooded. His unspoken guilt over Elias's death. He'd been there, unable to save him from Draven's ambush. The secret burned, deepening her empathy. "I failed him," Thorn confessed in a hushed tone, eyes glistening. "Promised to protect his legacy, you. But falling for you, it's my redemption." Tears welled in Alara's eyes, the vulnerability cracking her open. "You haven't failed. You've given me everything." She cupped his face, thumbs brushing his stubble. The bond amplified it all. His pain mirroring hers from Marcus's betrayal, their shared loneliness forging a profound connection. "I was running from a life that broke me. You've mended me." Her lips met his in a kiss that was slow, exploratory, pouring out the slow burn affection that had built from their first stormy meeting. The magic responded, surging brighter, Alara's vision blurred with more revelations. Her bloodline wasn't just dormant, it carried the spirit's essence, making her a potential vessel. Suspense tightened. What if awakening it made her a target beyond Draven, drawing ancient rivals? Thorn's grip faltered, hinting at his knowledge of this, yet he held back, protecting her from the full truth. As the rite peaked, they stepped outside, the moon bathing the clearing in ethereal light. Thorn shifted partially, silver fur glinting, guiding her through the final steps. "Shift with me," he coaxed, his voice a growl of encouragement. Alara focused, the itch exploding into ecstasy, her form elongating, senses exploding. For a moment she was wolf, sleek, powerful, the world alive in scents and sounds. Thorn nuzzled her in wolf form, their bond a telepathic hum of joy and unity. They reverted, collapsing into each other's arms, laughter bubbling through exhaustion. "You did it," Thorn said, awe in his tone. He held her close, bodies entwined on the cool grass, the rite's afterglow warming them. "My mate." The word carried weight, deepening their emotional tie, confessions flowing freely now. He spoke of his dreams, a pack where love outweighed power, a life with her at its center. Alara shared her fears of losing herself, but in his embrace, they dissolved. Yet the night wasn't done. A rustle in the bushes snapped them alert. Luca emerged, human form disheveled, eyes wide. "Alpha Thorn. Draven's rallying the outcasts, but there's more." He glanced at Alara, hesitant. Whispers in the pack remnants. "Elias's curse, it's not just power, it's a prophecy. The awakened one becomes the eternal Alpha, binding all bloodlines." Thorn stiffened, his secret unraveling. "Luca!" Alara pulled away slightly, heart pounding. "You knew?" Suspense crested, the guardian role was deeper. Elias had chosen Thorn to awaken her, knowing the risks. Why hide it? Thorn's face crumpled. "Because if it goes wrong, the spirit consumes the vessel. I couldn't risk you." Regret laced his words, but love shone through. "I'd give my life to spare you that." The revelation deepened their bond, turning fear into fierce determination. Alara kissed him fiercely. "Then we'll face it as equals." Luca nodded, pledging loyalty, but warned. Draven approached, intent on interrupting the rite's seal. As howls rose, Thorn and Alara stood united, the bond a fortress. But the curse stirred within her, hinting at a final transformation, one that could crown her or doom them. The moon watched, secrets poised to erupt in the impending confrontation. Chapter 11. Eternal Howl. The moon's glow intensified, casting the clearing in a surreal silver haze that made the trees seem like silent sentinels witnessing their fate. Alara stood beside Thorn, her body still thrumming from the rite's completion, the wolf within her a living presence, restless, powerful, yet harmonized with her human soul. The bond between them felt like a golden thread, woven tighter by the night's trials, pulsing with shared emotions. His unwavering devotion, her burgeoning confidence. But suspense lingered in the air, thick as the fog rolling in from the forest depths. The prophecy Luca had whispered, the awakened one as eternal alpha, hung over her like a crown of thorns. What if claiming it meant losing herself, or worse, losing him? Thorn's hand found hers, his touch a lifeline amid the uncertainty. "The rite's sealed," he said, voice low and reverent. "You're one of us now, but Draven won't accept it without a fight." His golden eyes scanned the tree line, where shadows stirred unnaturally. Luca had vanished back into the woods, rallying what remnants of the old pack he could, but loyalty was fractured, secrets buried in years of rivalry. Alara squeezed his hand, drawing strength from the contact. The curse's energy coiled within her, no longer a burden, but a force awaiting direction. Visions from the rite replayed. The primordial spirit, the ethereal wolf of light and shadow, bound by Elias to prevent chaos. Her blood was the vessel, the key to unleashing or taming it. "If I'm the eternal alpha," she murmured, "what does that mean for you?" "For us?" Thorn turned to her, his expression a mix of pride and pain. "It means you're the heart of the pack, stronger than any of us." He hesitated, the secret he'd guarded finally spilling forth. Elias knew. "He bound me to you not just as guardian, but as anchor. If the spirit overwhelms, I take the fall. Absorb the madness so you survive." His voice cracked, revealing the depth of his sacrifice. "I'd do it gladly. For you." The confession deepened the ache in her chest, their bond flaring with raw emotion. Alara pulled him close, arms wrapping around his waist, her cheek against his chest. "No more secrets," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "We share the burden. You've carried too much alone." In that embrace, intimacy bloomed, not just physical, but soul-deep. She felt his heartbeat sync with hers, his fears mingling with her resolve. Years of isolation for him, betrayal for her, melted in the forge of their love, emerging as unbreakable alloy. Thorn tilted her chin up, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that was tender, lingering. "My mate," he breathed against her mouth. "My everything." The words carried the slow burn of their journey, from suspicious strangers to fated partners. Laughter escaped her, soft and unexpected, as she recalled their first meeting in the storm. "What?" he asked, a smile tugging at his lips. "Just us. Fighting wolves, breaking curses. Not how I pictured starting over." Her humor masked the vulnerability, but he saw through it, his thumb tracing her jaw. "We'll build something new," he promised. "A pack based on choice, not bloodlust." The vision he painted, runs under starlit skies, a home in the woods, perhaps even a family, warmed her, deepening the emotional tapestry between them. But the moment shattered with a deafening howl. Draven's, laced with fury. The black wolf burst from the shadows, larger than before, his form augmented by dark artifacts glinting around his neck. Stolen relics from Elias's cache, twisting the curse's power. Flanking him were a dozen outcasts, eyes mad with promised dominance. "The spirit is mine," Draven roared, shifting to hybrid as he charged. "The eternal alpha bows to no hybrid whelp." Thorn shifted instantly, silver fur erupting as he met Draven mid-leap. The collision shook the ground, fangs and claws clashing in a brutal dance. Alara's wolf surged forth, her full shift completing in a blaze of pain and power, sleek auburn fur, eyes glowing amber. She dove into the fray, instincts guiding her as she fended off two attackers, her movements fluid, empowered by the bond. Thorn's presence echoed in her mind. Encouragement, love, a telepathic thread binding them in battle. The fight was chaotic, blood staining the moonlit grass. Draven targeted Alara, his claws raking air inches from her flank. "You don't know your own power?" he snarled. "The spirit will consume you. Let me wield it." A vision hit her then, the curse unveiling its final secret. The Eternal Alpha wasn't a ruler, but a unifier, balancing light and shadow. Her identity crystallized, not destroyer but healer. With a surge, she channeled it, light erupting from her form, washing over the battlefield. The outcasts hesitated, madness clearing from their eyes as the curse broke, its dark tendrils dissolving. Draven faltered, the relics crumbling. Thorn seized the moment, pinning him. "Yield!" Thorn growled, human words through wolf jaws. Draven's eyes widened in defeat, the spirit's rejection evident. "Impossible!" He shifted back, broken, as Luca and loyal shifters emerged, subduing the rest. The pack remnants bowed, accepting Alara's light, the Eternal Alpha, not by conquest, but by harmony. As dawn broke, the moon fading, Alara and Thorn reverted, collapsing into each other's arms. Wounds healed rapidly under the curse's final benediction. "It's over," she whispered, the bond humming with peace. Thorn held her, his touch reverent. "We did it. Together." Their kiss was a seal on their future, emotions cresting in a wave of joy and relief. The pack gathered, oaths of loyalty sworn not to fear, but to unity. Luca smiled, the first of many to call her Alpha. In the days that followed, they rebuilt. The cabin a haven, the woods their domain. Alara embraced her dual nature, Thorn her steadfast mate. No more secrets shadowed their path, only promise, as they ran under the next moon, side by side. Their howls intertwined, a eternal vow of love, fate fulfilled. Chapter 12. Dawn of a new pack. The first rays of dawn painted the Black Ridge forest in hues of gold and rose, softening the scars of the night's battle. Alara stood in the clearing outside the cabin, the crisp air kissing her skin as she surveyed the remnants of their victory. The ground was churned with paw prints and blood, but the silence held a fragile peace, the howls of Draven's defeated pack replaced by the tentative calls of birds reclaiming the morning. Beside her, Thorn's presence was a steady anchor, his hand brushing hers, their bond a warm pulse that grounded her newfound identity as the Eternal Alpha. Her auburn fur had receded, but the wolf lingered within, a quiet strength that made her feel whole for the first time. The curse, now broken, had left its mark. Her senses sharper, her movements fluid, a connection to the forest that hummed like a second heartbeat. Yet suspense lingered in the corners of her mind. The prophecy had named her unifier, but whispers from the visions hinted at more. An untold legacy tied to Elias's bloodline, a secret even Thorn might not fully grasp. "You're quiet," Thorn said, his voice low, laced with the tenderness that had grown between them. He stood close, shirtless in the morning chill, his wounds now faint scars under the rite's healing magic. His golden eyes searched hers, catching the flicker of doubt. "The pack's sworn to you, Alara. Draven's gone. What's weighing on you?" She turned to him, the amulet at her throat warm against her skin, a reminder of Elias's legacy. The visions, they showed more than the curse. Something about a first bond, a power beyond uniting the packs. "Did Elias ever mention it?" Her question hung between them, probing the edges of his guarded heart. The bond let her feel his hesitation, a ripple of unease beneath his love. Thorn exhaled, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. He spoke of it once near the end. Said the Eternal Alpha could forge a bond that reshapes the shifter world, not just here, but beyond. A first bond tying all bloodlines to one will. His gaze darkened, vulnerability surfacing. "I didn't tell you because it's a myth, Alara. A hope he clung to, and I feared it would pull you from me, into a destiny too big for us." The confession deepened their connection, his honesty a bridge over the last shadows of secrecy. Alara stepped closer, her hand resting on his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. "Nothing's too big if we face it together," she said softly. "You've carried enough alone, Thorn. Let me share this." He pulled her into his arms, the embrace fierce yet tender, their bond flaring with shared emotions, his relief, her determination, their mutual need. "You're my home," he murmured against her hair, the words raw with years of loneliness now shed. "I'd follow you to the ends of the earth, alpha or not." Alara's laughter was soft, a release of tension. "Good, because I'm not letting you go." Their lips met in a kiss that was slow, deliberate, tasting of pine and promise. The slow burn of their romance culminated here, not in the heat of battle, but in quiet moments where love wove their souls tighter. She felt his past losses, Lila, his parents, echo in the bond, mirrored by her own wounds from Marcus's betrayal, her family's rejection. Together, they were healing, scars knitting into strength. They walked back to the cabin, hand in hand, to find Luca and a handful of pack remnants waiting. The young shifter's eyes held respect, but also urgency. The outcasts scattered, but some are wavering, talking of a new order under you, Alara. Others, they're whispering about the first bond. Old tales say it could summon the ancient spirits, make you untouchable. He glanced at Thorn, wary. "Or destroy you both if it fails." Alara's pulse quickened, suspense coiling anew. The first bond, was it the itch's final evolution, or a trap laid by Elias's ambition? She squeezed Thorn's hand, drawing courage. "Then we need to understand it. The journal, there's more in it." Inside, they pored over the weathered pages by the firelight, Thorn's arm around her shoulders. The entries grew cryptic, Elias's script trembling as if written in haste. The first bond is the eternal alpha's true test. It binds not just mates, but all shifters to a singular purpose, peace or dominion. The vessel must be pure of heart, or chaos reigns. A sketch followed. 2 wolves, 1 auburn, 1 silver, encircled by a radiant moon. Thorn's breath hitched. "This is us." His finger traced the drawing, awe mingling with fear. "Elias saw you, Alara. Knew you'd come." She leaned into him, the bond humming with shared destiny. "But why hide it? Why bind you to silence?" He sighed, vulnerability etching his features. "To protect you until you were ready." He feared the spirit's power would draw predators beyond Draven, ancients who'd exploit it. His eyes met hers, fierce. "I'll guard you no matter what comes." The day unfolded in quiet preparation, the pack helping to fortify the cabin. Ilara trained with Thorn, honing her shift, fluid now, her auburn wolf merging seamlessly with her human form. Their laughter echoed as she playfully nipped his silver flank during a mock chase, the bond deepening through shared joy. In quieter moments they shared stories, her childhood dreams of adventure, his nights watching the stars, dreaming of a life less solitary. Each confession wove them closer, emotions layering into unshakable trust. As dusk fell, Luca returned, tense. Scouts spotted movement, North Ridge. Not Draven, but something older. Smells wrong, like the forests rejecting it. His words stirred unease, hinting at the ancients Elias warned of. Thorn's jaw tightened. "We face it tonight. The first bond, if it's real, we invoke it under the waning moon." He turned to Alara, eyes blazing with love. "Together?" "Always," she vowed, their fingers entwining. The bond pulsed, a beacon against the gathering shadows. As night cloaked the forest, they gathered in the sacred grove, the pack forming a protective ring. Thorn and Alara stood at the center, chanting anew, the amulet glowing fiercely. Magic surged, visions of ancient shifters bowing to a unified alpha flashing through her mind. But a presence loomed, dark, ancient, drawn by the bond's call. The suspense tightened as the trees rustled, eyes glinting beyond the grove. Was it an ally or the chaos Elias feared? Their love held firm, but the final test awaited, threatening to redefine their world, or end it. Chapter 13. The eternal dawn, the sacred grove pulsed with the waning moon's silver light, its glow weaving through the ancient pines like threads of fate. Ilara stood at the center, Thorn's hand clasped tightly in hers, their bond a radiant force that thrummed with love, strength, and the weight of the first bond's invocation. The pack encircled them, Luca's steady gaze anchoring the remnants who had sworn loyalty, their breaths visible in the chill night air. The amulet at Alara's throat burned with heat, its carved wolf head glowing as if alive, channeling the ancient spirit her bloodline had guarded. Yet suspense coiled tighter than ever. A dark presence loomed beyond the grove, its wrongness tainting the air with a metallic tang, hinting at secrets older than Elias's curse. Thorn's silver-streaked hair caught the moonlight, his eyes locked on hers, fierce with devotion. "Whatever comes," he whispered, his voice a low rumble that steadied her racing heart. "We face it as one." The bond surged, emotions flooding between them, his unwavering resolve, her newfound courage, their shared dreams of a life unbound by fear. In the hours since Draven's defeat, their connection had deepened through quiet touches and whispered vows, each moment a testament to a love that had grown from a stormy meeting to an unbreakable union. Alara nodded, her auburn hair falling over her shoulders as she squeezed his hand. "I'm ready." But doubt lingered. What was the first bond's true cost? The journal's warning echoed, chaos if her heart faltered. She felt the spirit within, no longer a curse but a power she could wield. Yet the visions hinted at a final secret. Her identity as the eternal Alpha might awaken forces beyond the packs, forces Elias had feared enough to bind Thorn to silence. They resumed the chant, their voices blending in the ancient tongue, the words resonating with the grove's energy. Magic swirled, a vortex of light and shadow that drew gasps from the pack. Alara's senses sharpened. Pine, earth, Thorn's musk. But a discordant note intruded, a scent of decay and malice. The trees rustled violently and a figure emerged. Not Draven, but a towering shifter in hybrid form, its fur mottled gray and black, eyes glowing with an unnatural violet hue. An ancient, one of the elders Elias had warned of, drawn by the first bond's call. "Vessel," it hissed, voice like gravel grinding underfoot. "You dare wield the spirit's power? It belongs to the old blood." Its claws extended, longer than any natural beast's, and the pack tensed, ready to defend. Thorn shifted to Wolf in a heartbeat, silver fur bristling as he positioned himself between Alara and the threat. "Stay back, Kale," he growled, naming the ancient. "The bond is hers by right." His protectiveness flooded the bond, wrapping Alara in warmth. But she felt his fear, a secret he hadn't shared. Kale's lineage rivaled Elias's, claiming dominion over the spirit long before the curse. Alara stepped forward, her own shift surging, auburn wolf, eyes blazing amber. "I am the eternal Alpha," she declared, voice steady despite the tremor in her limbs. The spirit roared within, light erupting from her form, bathing the grove in radiance. The pack howled in unity, their loyalty a tangible force, but Kale laughed, unfazed. "You're a half-breed," he sneered, advancing. "The first bond will break you." He lunged, claws aimed at her heart. Thorn met him mid-air, their collision shaking the earth. Alara dove in, instincts honed by days of training, her claws raking Kyle's flank. The bond synced their movements, Thorn's strength, her agility, a dance of unity that pushed Kale back. But his power was immense, wounds healing faster than Thorn's, his relics pulsing with stolen magic. Amid the fray, Ilara's visions clarified. The first bond wasn't dominion, but harmony, uniting all shifters through love, not conquest. Her identity crystallized. She was no weapon, but a bridge. With a surge, she channeled the spirit, light flaring brighter, washing over Kale. His relics shattered, his form wavering as the madness in his eyes cleared. "Replaced by awe, he gasped, reverting to human, an old man, weathered but regal. "You're the true unifier." The pack stilled, the grove silent save for their breaths. Kale knelt, head bowed. "I yield. The old blood recognizes you." The remnants followed, their oaths echoing, sealing Alara's place as eternal Alpha. Thorn shifted back, bloodied but whole, pulling her into his arms. "You did it," he whispered, voice thick with pride. Their kiss was fierce, a celebration of survival and love, the bond humming with joy. In his embrace, she felt his final secret unravel. His fear she'd outgrow him, become a legend he couldn't match. "I'm yours," she murmured, dispelling it. "Always." Days later, the cabin was their haven, rebuilt by the pack's hands. Alara and Thorn stood on the porch, watching the forest awaken. The bond had settled into a steady glow, their love a foundation for the new pack, free, united, guided by choice. Luca approached, grinning. The ancients sent word. They honor the first bond. You've changed everything. Alara leaned into Thorn, their fingers entwined. The suspense of her identity resolved. But a new chapter loomed. A life of leading, loving, running under the moon. As they shared a quiet laugh, planning a future in the wild, the forest whispered its approval, their howls blending into the eternal dawn.